Chapter 93. Versus Holy Knights Part 4. Having jumped high into the heavens, Xian observed the ground below. Her eyes glistened with the light of a king who had gone off to hunt the treasured prey. A fearless smile appeared on her face and she released an ominous aura power. Having easily found her prey, she descended upon a small squad of knights. Leonard is, in fact, not a Knight Templar. He is a genius who reached the pinnacle of magic arts and is the Saint Wizard. Only he who has mastered the Saint Magic Archive and the Elemental Magic Archive can call themselves with this title. The Saint Wizards are those who truly understand the laws of the world. However, holy sword in hand, Leonard had engaged in many battles. Even while hiding his identity as a Saint Wizard, his name is far more famous now as a Templar. And at some point he had become Division Vice Captain. Without question that was the result of his power. A beautiful sword hand. Where Arno's sword symbolized power, Leonard's embodied harmony. Though they had comparable power, Arno was a little stronger. Moreover, Arno specialized in persistent combat. That endurance elevated Arno as the strongest among the knights. But Leonard was in fact a magic swordsman. That is how he now fought. His sword skill would not lose to Arno, and his current fighting style would certainly not fail him. No, certainly Leonard was now stronger. However, the Templars did not base their evaluation on Elemental Magic Archive. Even though there are those among them that have an affinity for elemental magic and use it, they silently cast it during battle. Thus, Leonard convinced himself that true power consisted in reaching the pinnacle of the holy affinity. If he were to achieve his goal, surely he would have the power to cut down any opponent. That was his delusion born out of being saved by a hero during his childhood. The hero was strong. Simple, perfect strength. The attacking monsters were decimated with the hero's sword. Even wicked spirits far larger than a human were vanquished with a single stroke of the sword. Thus his hidden village, which had resigned themselves to death, were saved by a hero. Since then, Leonard was fascinated with that mystical sword. And while mastering the ways of magic he imitated the hero's sword with a stick. After becoming a Saint Wizard, he finally left for Ingracha Kingdom. There, he learned the sacred magic and awaited his opportunity to journey to the Holy Empire Rubarian. For an outsider to be allowed the pilgrimage, one would have to attain certain proficiency with the secret magic. In the end, Leonard reached a high level of the Sacred Magic Archive and was allowed to become the Knights Templar's apprentice. Afterwards, during the spirit contract ceremony, he formed the contract with the Light and Darkness Spirit. With a serious expression, he reported to have formed a contract only with the Light Spirit. For him, the Darkness Spirit distanced him from the hero and hence was pointless. Thus, began the life of the Light Templar Leonard. A nightmare incarnate descended from the sky. Lightly landing upon the ground, she looked up at the knights. Without panicking, Leonard had already begun to order his men. He had the target surrounded by 2 knights from each direction. And had the rest set up a simple holy barrier as soon as possible. He decided that they should end this fight quickly in order to focus on Hinata's order. Leonard's magic perception identified the monster before him as unreasonably powerful. Even among ranked monsters, she was far stronger. Perhaps she is the highest existence in this city. Maybe they were beset upon by the Demon Lord himself. On this battlefield, Leonard felt powerful existences in various directions through his perception magic. He couldn't feel the other knights, but that's because the magic power is unnaturally dense in these areas. There was only one enemy before them. Negligence would result in death. He decided to dispose of her immediately. Set up the barrier for the target before us. He issued the order, judging that there was no time to analyze the enemy. The knights surrounding her in 4 directions immediately got to work. This is an excellent barrier which probably cannot be broken from the inside. But it is not perfect. It is a simple barrier, after all. The space created is narrow, so could it block every attack is the question. The space is created as 20 meters in diameter, but if one were to immediately absorb all the magic energy and fire off a large-scale spell, then perhaps it would break. That's why the barrier is normally made to be far larger. In the first place, though this barrier sealed the variability he was so proud of, He couldn't complain in the present situation. Just in case, he had the second squad surround them all with a defense barrier. They couldn't kill the target trapped in the purification barrier. They could attack from the outside, but they had to confirm the target before that. On the off chance that the enemy had a rare reflect affinity, such carelessness would only lead to unnecessary casualties. He could hardly commit such a blunder. When the dust settled, a single monster stood before them. She was slender, with purple-black hair. It was long enough to flow onto her back, and it suited her well. She had a beautiful face. But, two horns adorned her head. Her white skin peeked from inside a kimono. She was clad in jet-black armor. A bewitching beauty. Her eyes, like two amethysts, focused on Leonard, and she opened her mouth. "My name is Shion, Rimuru-sama's first servant. Now then, gentlemen, so says my lord. Obedience or death. O wise knights, certainly you can discern which is better option. Abandon your weapons and join me," she declared, greatly emphasizing the words first servant. Leonard felt power emanate from the monster who introduced herself as Shion. She was clearly unnaturally strong. The enemy was probably an Oni. Oni are powerful beings from the ogre family who have evolved such after many long years. Sometimes called divine, there have been Oni that have brought many calamities upon the world. Yet she was a named monster on top of being an Oni. At this point, it may be more accurate to refer to her as a land god rather than a monster. But the Holy Empire Rubarian recognizes the existence of only one god, Ruminus. Bestowing happiness upon a hero with a kiss, this heavenly child could bestow a holy blessing upon them. Thus, land gods, gods who protected people, and the like absolutely cannot be recognized. Silence. Wicked monster. We will cleanse the world of your unclean presence. Leonard called out and ordered the men to fire holy cannon at her. This attack would be meaningless to those with resistance to holy attacks, but monsters should not be able to block it. Unlike earth, water, fire, or wind resistances, holy and dark attacks cannot be nullified. Other than monsters with an angelic affinity, holy cannon is not an attack that can be blocked. Upon Leonard's order, the knights began their assault. Thus, an incessant rain of attacks fell upon Shion. "Is that your answer? I'll kill you?" she said with a face of why do these people not listen to others' words? And while she was asking the question, a Nodaki appeared in her hand, stopping every energy bolt coming her way. However, that would hardly make her a threat. Even if she were recognized as a land god class, she was already trapped within the holy field. They only had to keep up the barrier long enough for her to weaken. But Leonard was simply impressed that she could still display the sword speed of a master. The sword, which had received so many holy affinity attacks, showed no signs of breaking, so it could also be called abnormal. And then one of the knights screamed. Seems like one of the attacking knights had their bullet returned to them. She had absorbed the holy magic with her sword and sent the attack flying back at them. Which is normally impossible. That is, it required such precise timing that it required godly skill. Panicking, Leonard ordered the onslaught to stop. The knight who was hit previously was not seriously hurt and got away with the scare. But being able to return their attacks from within the holy field far exceeded Leonard's expectations. Not a single knight could hide his surprise. While suppressing his surprise, Leonard clicked his tongue thinking about the next step. Shion, being Shion, was simply upset at the fact that her attack did not go as intended. In the first place, attacks would only pass into the barrier but would not get out. While this barrier permits holy magic to pass through it, other attacks it blocks. Moreover, she tried this earlier, but it seems spatial travel has been sealed. Shion's irritation was reaching its peak. She is hardly a patient person, but she had decided to bear it as long as possible. By now, her rampage was imminent. "Hey guys. I'll ask nicely, how about you drop the barrier, huh? I promise I won't kill you and will even let you eat a special meal made by me? How about it? Isn't this a wonderful proposal? That's the last warning I'll give you, so how about it?" She put effort into stifling her anger and asked them with a forced smile. She was completely looking down on the knights who she deemed couldn't even scratch her, but seriously believed they could accept the offer. But, of course, the knights would not even consider it. Silence. Trapped within a barrier, how dare you act so high and mighty? One of the knights replied. Yes, a monster does weaken greatly within the holy field. That is caused simply by the fact that magical energy dissipates within it. And a monster which is a mass of magic energy must abstain from using skills in order to preserve its existence. Which is why they limit themselves to using only the simplest skills. Let's say that she creates a large explosion inside the barrier. The shrapnel will pass through the barrier and hit the knights. Thus, just to be safe, Leonard had them set up a physical attack barrier. Setting up a barrier in regards to specific types of attacks is the norm. Even though he had gone to these lengths, Leonard was still anxious. He saw Xian pick up fist-sized stones from the ground. He immediately figured out what she was going to do. So he had the knights, especially the ones up close, guard against the attack. A thunderous roar, and an explosion appeared in front of one of the knights. Xian had thrown a stone at the knight. The stone reflected on a physical attack barrier. What amazing strength! And that's her power in her weakened state, with her power sealed. How terrible would it be had they not set up the holy field in time? The Oni in front of him seemed upset and was stomping her feet. Her stomps are creating cracks in the earth, so just how much power does she? Though she looks like an intellectual young girl, how cruel that lie is. Keep up the barrier with your lives if you have to. Those free, attune your spirit power to mine. I'll use disintegration. Converge the barrier on her to seal her movements. We can't let her live. When disintegration captures its target, it never lets go. It is a spell that can vaporize any kind of enemy. But, using it on such a large area will cause it to disperse. Moreover, it's not a skill that every knight can use. This time, it's only possibly by using the other knight's energy. By simultaneously using it from every direction, you can activate the area disintegration. Thank goodness I was here, Leonard thought, relieved. In the first place, only he and Hinata can use this spell. Moreover, area disintegration is a high-level forbidden spell that even Hinata cannot use. It uses too much energy that it threatens the caster's life. But, consider the rampaging demon before him. He could not possibly let this demon loose upon the world. Having thus decided, Leonard gave the order. The other knights, as if reading his thoughts, have already gone to work. They all found the thoughts of this monster, who exerted so much strength inside the barrier, rampage freely too terrifying. Their teamwork impeccable, they first created a 20-meter square of light around her. Collapsing the barrier on top of her, it turned into a pyramid-shaped cage. Xian looked at the cage of light. That looks dangerous, she thought. But, she could not break the barrier, nor did she have any skills to protect herself with. The humans are looking down on her too much, Xian thought. You will die, demon. We cannot let such a dangerous being live. This world needs only one god. Disintegration. The strongest one of them cried. At the same moment, from the four corners and the zenix of the pyramid she was in a violent light assaulted Xian. Don't look down on me, human. Rimuru-sama, protect me. Xian wrapped herself in all her magical energy, and prepared for the attack. In a split second, without an explosion or heat, the light consumed her. The knights thought that power to be supreme. But they still did not neglect to keep up the barrier. Though the monster's death was certain, they would keep it up until ordered otherwise. As for those that supported Leonard's spell, they all collapsed where they stood. Having used such an extreme spell, their fatigue was expected. Even tempered knights could not avoid exhaustion. The fact that none of them died evidences how well superb they are. Leonard turned inside in relief, confirming that everyone was alive. But, he sighed too early. He should have done so after confirming that the monster was dead. He had used the highest anti-personnel skill, and the impossibility of what he saw caused his feet to become unsteady. He had looked up to confirm the state of the target. In the center, the remnant of the Oni. No, that burned thing began to move. They were not able to burn everything away. Some of it remained. But that cannot possibly survive. A limbless monster, a mere torso, can only crawl into a hole awaiting death. Leonard said again, preparing to crush the target. It was a terrifying monster, but they had managed to defeat it. They were truly fortunate to have been able to destroy it without a single casualty. Had they not made the first move, they might have all been killed. But their goal was not to kill this monster. Leonard so remembered, changing his mood. And he began to consider his mission. At the present, he was supposed to set up one corner of a large-scale holy field. It was to support Hinata, a crucial mission. However, Diony's attack had left his men exhausted. Fulfilling the mission may prove difficult. He thought, and finally noticed that something was wrong. He did not feel that a single division had succeeded. If he was attacked, were the other groups also attacked? But even so, there's no way they could have been attacked by equally powerful monsters, so they are just running late. Slacking, aren't they? What a good opportunity. I'll forge them anew when we get back. Leonard thought, and intended to contact Arnaud, but... bastards. You unforgivable. I'll never forgive you, human trash. He felt a wicked presence behind him, and turned around. An unbelievable sight unfolded before him. In the middle of the holy field, like a zombie or a ghoul, something was gathering itself together. The knights, their faces deathly blue, looked at Leonard. Impossible. How can you still live after being hit by disintegration? He couldn't help but exclaim. A rare mistake for the calm and collected Leonard. But it couldn't be helped. If anything, it's the monster that survived disintegration that exceeds the laws of the world. And before him, the zombie-like Oni began to regenerate into her original beautiful form, which only increased their fear. Returning to her original form in less than a minute, this is what she said. I'll show you the same level of pain, the same level of suffering, and twice the fear, humans. An ominous crimson light shining in her eyes, she bellowed. And charging forward she hit the barrier with her sword. It wasn't simply effective. And the relieved knights' faces were covered in fear. Cracks ran across the whole barrier. And, humph, as I thought. It's not a high-density barrier, but one that tampers with the laws of the world a bit. Well, something like that can be changed with one of the effects of my cook skill. She said and cut the surprised knight standing in front of Leonard. Though he should have lost his head, that's not what happened. Only his limbs fell to the ground. Did she surpass his sight by that much? While feeling the sense of dread intensified, he casted full recovery magic on the knight. But it did not activate, which caused Leonard to tremble. You fool. I made that human's limbless state the norm. What good would recovery magic do? He's perfectly fine already, she unhappily explained. Leonard understood what she meant, which caused his heart to tremble in terror. In fact, he had noticed, but did not want to accept it, when she had rewritten the effects of the holy field. And, now before him, was undeniable proof. She overwrites the nature of the object itself. She has a skill that allows her to obtain a desired effect. In front of a skill that necessarily grants the user's desire, defense may be completely impossible. Even if you try to oppose her, she'll just overwrite it with a stronger wish. Only those who possess a similar skill can oppose her. Because Leonard was a genius, he noticed this, and despaired. He figured there was no way he could oppose her. So he thought, understanding that a demon had been let loose upon the world. No way. It's impossible. This kind of fiend cannot possibly. Fear. As she had declared, Leonard was overcome with fear. Leaving Leonard for later, she first went for the despairing knights and the exhausted who could no longer run away. And in front of Leonard's eyes, his men, now limbless, were carefully arranged in a few moments. Leonard felt as if he were going mad from fear. And in his ear, so you are next? A sweet voice whispered. Now Leonard would come to know true fear.